Hello.
Hey, I have no idea what happened.
I don't know either. Part two.
Part two. You know what's funny though about having been in it so long is like we know like early Etsy. We know a whole world pre-Ravelry. Like it's just it's so amazing how much the industry has changed.
Yeah, I remember on Ravelry when they're like, "We have 1,000 members, wahoo!"
They're like, "We have 6 million."
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's crazy. And then I went to a fiber festival and they're saying like they're having a Ravelry meetup. It's like there are enough people to do a meetup. That's awesome,
right.
And it's like, wait, do I want to meet people that I know from online? I'm not sure. This is a little bit awkward, So it's just, it is amazing. But definitely, like with Instagram, like, okay, especially like I said, being late to the game with Stephen West. I just joined Instagram probably like last summer, so I feel like I'm definitely behind because of doing that spinning certificate. But I assure you, I'm working on it and trying to get caught back up with everything that's been going on. But yeah, I think definitely, to avoid the mistakes, it's just look at what people are doing that are successful and, see what are the things that made them successful. I don't know if I feel comfortable, wearing as many crazy colors and doing all the cool things that Stephen West does. That's totally his, and he's awesome for doing it. But if you kind of look at yourself and say, okay, what am I good at? And I know I'm good at color. I know I'm good at teaching people about color. So that's kind of my formula. I'm going to stick with it and hope for the best.
Yeah, and that's the way to go. I mean, and also, it doesn't happen overnight. And
yeah, definitely. And it's a lot of hard work. Like I said, it took 10 years to get here. And I don't feel like the journey is over. I know that there are things that, can be improved upon. I mean, maybe it's, picking one weekend a month to do the dyeing and then one weekend to do the packing and, just having a different kind of like approach to it. But, the more organized you can be, the more, I don't know, formulaic for me anyway, that you can be, the easier it is. But I think there is a big disconnect between the artist and the business person. And so if you can have a partner or someone to help you with that, that's huge.
I really should have done that.
Because, I think even still, I know my husband, I'm very fortunate for him. He's a musician, so we both have that, like, artist in us. But, he's also really good at, like, editing and, saying, Alana, it's too complicated. And I'm like, but no, I want to reinvent, like I said to him when I was doing that fibers course, I said, I'm trying to teach people, a large group of people, like 20 people, how to crochet. I have 4 hours to do it, but I need to give them a homework assignment that they're going to come back the following week with a knitted crocheted swatch. So I'm going to teach you how to crochet, and I'd like you to, tell me what I'm teaching is maybe difficult or you're not getting so that I can tweak it. And so he made a little funny PowerPoint. And he's like, okay, I want you to show this PowerPoint. And it's like, learning to crochet. Step 1, build a rocket. No, it's not rocket science, but it's just, sometimes like people think, okay, I'm going to take a knitting class and I'm going to have a sweater at the end, and it's like, no, just master holding the sticks, you got this, but you gotta go slow and, start off with the Kool-Aid, start off with the 4 inches of red, 4 inches of blue, have the cardboard light box, do all of those things, make those mistakes, but then also don't give up on yourself and know that, if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you'll make it through. And, like I said, I had, the loss of my son when I was pregnant again. I was really on the fence about going back for the spinning certificate. And I said, I'm about to have a child. This is not something that's going to be compatible with how much energy I have to put into, keeping going with these homework assignments and stuff. I know with medical issues in life and, parents and getting older and taking care of people and stuff, sometimes life has a way of just kind of like changing your course about it. But I think if it's something that you love, you know, you can't also deny that part of yourself too. Like, I know there's a lot of people that I've heard say, oh, you know, I used to knit and spin or do whatever, and I had children and I stopped, and now that I'm retired, I'm going to pick it up. And, you know, to me, it's like, you just spent 20 years of your life not doing something you love. You know, maybe you don't get to do it as much as you want, but the idea of giving up on it completely, just, I don't know, I guess it never really was an option. But having a lot of cheerleaders is also important too.
It's interesting because, so when I've been teaching Pilates now for 3 years, and the process to get certified is like 600 hours. Like it's you know, it's a very intensive you know thing. It's like 6 months to learn all the exercises. You know, 100 hours teaching for free. You know, 100 hours observation, then another 100 hours for pittance. You know, and then at the end of it, you're like, wow, I still know nothing. You know.
Yeah, you know, and it's humbling. It's definitely humbling.
Very.
I mean, I went to a fiber festival and I bought 2 pounds of fiber to make my husband a sweater. And it's like I'm just finished. I'm like this master spinner. I made this spreadsheet in Google Doc. Like I made a swatch. I measured the swatch. I weighed the swatch. I can tell you how long an inch or how long a stitch is. It's like 0.625 of an inch or whatever. You know, like I know all of that. And I still ran out of enough fiber to finish the effing thing. So it's like, you know, I have to, now I'm like on this like treasure hunt because the guy that I got the fiber from is retired. And I have every single receipt from every single fiber that I've ever purchased except for this one. I can't find it, what the blend was. And my memory is like so crap. So I'm like, okay, it's merino, and I know it's got cashmere, silk, and yak. Maybe it's got only cashmere and yak, but it has a silky sheen to it. So it's like, okay, lady, you know, you just spent 10 years studying fiber. Like, you should be able to analyze the content of this. I can't burn it because everything in it is a protein fiber. So it's not like it's going to get like and melt, you know. So what I did was I reached out to the people, the World of Wool in the UK. I never used them before, but I guess they do custom blends. So I mailed them. Yeah, I mailed them some of the yarn. And then, you know, again, I never did this in anything before, but I spun all the fiber. So they're like, well, send us like some of the unspun fibers. So I'm taking the singles, right? And I'm like combing it open, like brushing it open to like have it look like revert back to its like, you know, unspun self. And it's like, you know, how did I get so far? And I'm still making these mistakes, man. Like this is not, you know, so yeah, I know there's a ton that I don't know. But again, I have a lot of really, you know, funny mistakes that I made. And I bring all of my mistakes with me to my workshops, and I show people, and I'm like, look, I don't want you to think that, you know, I touch something and, you know, like Rumpelstiltskin is going to turn into gold. Like, more often than not, like, I make mistakes, but I can tell you why now I'm making that mistake, where it's like, you know, a choice that I'm making. So that's, you know, that's why I don't want to have thing is because the fiber that I'm spinning for my husband's sweater, you know, I bought it 4 years ago. And so if I was buying it now, I probably would buy 3 pounds, right? And so that's another reason why I don't want to have this stash, because I feel like then these problems happen and it's hard to find, you know, some random blend from this guy that's retired now that I don't know what it is. So, you know, I'm reaching out to people in my guild. I'm like, does anyone have something that might look like this that they bought like in 2012 maybe? So I'm gonna go stash diving in someone's stash next weekend. I'm gonna go stash diving in a friend's stash. She's like, I think I have it, but it's like more brown. It's not gray, and it's like, okay, we'll make it work. But yeah, hopefully World of Wool can come through for me, because I don't know how my husband's gonna look in, like, you know, those in style, like those sweatshirts that are kind of like low cut under the shoulders. So it's going to be like a man's cardigan, but it's going to have that low cut look if I can't find any more. Or I'll just be creative and I'll just like make a bat and just say it was meant to be that way. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet.
That's so funny.
It'll be like a vest tunic. It won't have sleeves or something. I don't know. That's
Well, what's funny is that your methodical approach to, to spinning and knitting is, I am, for the most part, like your typical right-brained artist. Like, I'm not super organized and I'm not super detailed. When it comes to teaching Pilates, I am all of that. Like,
well, yeah, and that's yeah, and that's awesome, and
alignment and yeah.
But what's interesting as a teacher, go like when we go through the education programs, there are different learners, right? So there are people that learn from reading, people that learn from listening. There are people that learn through body kinesthetics, and so that might be an area where you're really strong in. And so for me, I'm very visual, so I need to see something, and I'm very tactile. I need to physically experience it. So there are people that you give directions to, and it's they'll say go north, or they'll say go west, and you're like, what are you talking about? Just tell me which McDonald's I'm supposed to turn left by, And so it's interesting how different people approach learning as well, and as well as teaching. And so if you're very aware of your body and the physical movements, then that might come more naturally to you. But especially if you're teaching people how to spin or to do things like that, I try to have lots of different ways of communicating ideas. So I'll have the handout with the words. Then I'll have the samples that are done so they could see the end product, so that they have the experience before they have the experience, and then trying to build on their foundational knowledge, so that I'll say okay, how many of you have done yarns like this before, and that kind of thing. And I think that's maybe why, when I approach my projects, I tend to approach them how can I use this as an example when I teach a workshop? So I do tend to take good notes and be more organized and methodical. But what's interesting? I would say, aside from the gnome scarf, I pretty much don't wear or use anything that I made. I have things that are functional, like a woven purse, and I'll use that. But, there's rarely any garments or things. I like the way that cotton feels, but I don't feel like spinning cotton, So it's funny that, I have, a whole bin of sweaters that I'll probably never wear. I don't like them anymore because I'm so sick of, working with the fiber by the end, because I've just complicated it to death in my brain of the mathematical and logistics of all of it. But it's interesting. I don't know. There's a preciousness about the fiber, and I know some people say oh, I have this beautiful fiber, but I don't want to spin it because I'm afraid I'm going to ruin it. And
you're well, otherwise it's just going to stand around. You're not getting any pleasure out of it.
So they spin the crappy fleece that has all these second cuts and vegetable matter in it and stuff. And it's the people that don't use the china in the cabinet, they eat off of plastic or paper plates. So I think sometimes you have to kind of say to yourself it's okay, I'm just going to approach this and enjoy it, and it doesn't have to be for function either. But generally, I do tend to be very, like I said, Walter White about my approach to things.
That's awesome.
That's probably going to be my nickname.
I don't actually really wear anything I've knitted either. There's one sweater that I do. Maybe a hat, but it's kind of that.
I don't like the way that wool sits on me. I feel it's kind of I don't know, and I think that's the thing. I'm more of a spinner that knits, so maybe I have found the right actually the fiber that I purchased from you when I made that sweater. I bought this knitting pattern that said making garments that suit your body type, and so I'm okay, this is gonna be the one. This is gonna be the one that I like wearing. And it's too heavy for me. I like lighter things, So I don't know. I feel I've gotten to the point where I've learned that it's okay to not wear the things you make, and just make things with the intention of giving them as presents. Or one thing that I've done a lot of is I tend to make things that are more decorational, because then I feel I can appreciate them without having to feel obligated to wear them. So I just bought some beautiful Malbrigo painted or dyed wool, and it was impossible to spin. It was like felted practically. So I ran it through my drum starter, I blended it, and I spun it, and and I broke up the top because I wanted to get like the main colors. Like I didn't want it to get all muddy on me and turn brown. So I made it green, and then I spun it, I knitted it, and I for the longest time wanted to make a knitted cactus because like I can't keep plants alive, and so I made a knitted cactus, and now I like it, and I'm so happy. Like I went on this mad hunt. I'm like, what can I use to like replicate the spikes of a cactus? And people were saying things like toothpicks, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's got to look like a cactus, not like I took a sticking toothpick and I stuck it in something that's knitted.
Right.
So my husband like hooked me up, and he's like okay, go get those like scrubby brushes, you know, so that like you use for like washing the floor. So I went to Home Depot and I found like the longest like white bristled scrubby brush, and like I plucked them out with tweezers, and like I stuffed the cactus with like the green floral foam, you know, so that it holds the shape, putting the plastic in. And that's also on my Instagram too. And like I love the cactus, you know, and it's not a sweater, it's not another scarf or another cowl, and it's awesome. And I look at it, and you know, I mean, have you by any chance read or know about the whole KonMari sparking joy?
Yeah.
I've
heard about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those that are listening that don't know, basically it's just like a philosophy of, you know, surrounding yourself with things that spark joy. And I'm so happy with this like stinking little cactus because it's something that I can appreciate, and it's something that I don't feel this like obligation to wear, but also I know like the cotton socks, it's okay, it's not going to rub against anything, you know, and it's going to be awesome as it is. So it's okay to not make, you know, finished garments. Like you can make like decorations. Like one of the knitters that I love is Mochi Mochi, or I don't know if I'm saying it right, but yeah. And, like, I love her little gnomes, you know, and so I just hope one day that I can sit and make a whole bunch of them and just surround my house with little knitted gnomes.
Okay, that would be amazing.
Yeah, right.
That would be so awesome.
Yeah, but you see, that's what I'm saying. So imagine, like, your yarn as, like, little sweaters for those gnomes. I mean,
oh, my God.
It doesn't have to be a sweater. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a sweater for a grown-up. It could just be, like, a little gnome. Or you can even make,
you could even
yarn bomb. Yeah, you could, like, yarn bomb garden gnomes with sweaters. And that could be your thing.
That would be funny. I'm just
seeing
like you could have all these little like populations around your house, right? Like
yeah,
you know,
you could
these
do
gnomes would live
with the
here.
Flamingos. Yeah, you could do the flamingos.
One would have the umbrella, you know, the tropical.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh my God, that's
it doesn't have to be these, you know, great big complicated things. That's what I'm working towards, is simplification. That's my 2017 New Year's resolution that I'm trying to live out.
What are you looking forward to doing in the future? Like,
well, I'm trying to keep up with the physical copies of this book because I'm just so blown away. I didn't realize that it was going to be as awesomely amazing, that people were going to be so supportive and help me getting it.
Sold well.
Well, yeah, so I did a pre-order of 50 books. Those are spoken for, so those are all shipped out. And then I put in another order for 50 because, again, I'm self-publishing, right? So I'm paying the printing costs up front. And I got 50 more coming. They should be coming on Friday, and I think 20 of them already sold. So it's just like I can't keep up with it as an individual. So, you know, when you're talking about challenges as an entrepreneur, you know, like, knowing how to what time to turn the clock off so that, you know, you don't feel like you're burning the candle from both ends.
Right.
But just, you know, trying to see this book through and just spreading the word about that, and just looking forward to, you know, teaching workshops wherever they may be, where people would like me to come. And I think going through my fiber studio and just like destashing everything. I just kind of want to do the clean slate, like the arm on the table, knock everything off and start through. And then really the one passion I think that's like left that I haven't really finished accomplishing yet is with relationship to the dye guide that I wrote, because basically the premise of that is to select a picture and a digital picture, and then to pull the color from the photograph and then translate that into a dye formula. And
your technique for that was amazing. I was like, I was just blown away by it. I was like, wow, that is the best way of like actually getting the color you want.
So let me just like backpedal to let you know where this came from, right? So as a teacher, I constantly teach color theory when I teach painting, and I found it was very helpful to students to break it down into numbers. And so, you know, we'll say, okay, like red, yellow, and blue is 100%, right? And then when you make the color green, it's like 50-50. So think of it like a dollar, and you have the 4 quarters. So you got 50 cents of yellow and 50 cents of blue, and then when we want to get that blue green, now we have like 75 cents of blue and 25 cents of yellow, and kind of thinking, and I'm like, you know, if colors are broken down in numbers, right, and a printer, when it goes to print, like on a cereal box, you know, it has those little squares that the printer tests for the calibration, and the printer is able to get all of those colors. So if a printer can print and get those colors, and it uses math, you know, and in Photoshop, you can go in and see the mathematical information about a color, then how come as a dyer I can't apply that, you know, knowledge of a color that the computer already knows, and reproduce it? And so I tried to do a lot of tests, and I think I was going about it wrong. When you're talking about, you know, what do entrepreneurs and dyers do to make mistakes, I was not, I don't know. I was too close to the problem to, like, really take it all in. So taking a break from it was really helpful. And now that I took a step back and I haven't been thinking about it, now I have a new approach that I'm gonna try out. But I was trying to test out like 4 different dye brands. Like I was doing the Saberset dyes and the Jacquard and the Wash Fast acid dyes, and I was just doing too many. So I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to focus on one dye brand, like one line of dyes, and I'm going to try to see if I can calibrate the dyes like how a printer calibrates. And so I can't call up Hewlett-Packard and say, hey, you know, what concentration is your magenta ink? That's not going to happen, right? But what I can do is I can try to find the closest concentration of the magenta that I need, so that when I go to mix it up, it's going to yield the same color as the printer does when it prints out. And why that's like super revolutionary is that, you know, as dyers, when you look in any kind of dye guide or dye book or whatever, they always say, again, back to that color wheel, okay, if you want a blue or green, use 75% blue, 25% yellow. But when you're envisioning green, there's so many kinds of greens, right? You know, it's a range. It's not just one green. And, you know, the base of which you're dyeing on is going to influence the way the green looks, and, you know, light reflecting off of it and all that other stuff. So trying to get this elusive green and applying it to dye is very complicated. And again, going back to that first yarn that I blended with the hand carders, I love that green, and I wanted to figure out how can I get that green. I know a dyer dyed that. I've been buying green dyes, none of them are matching it. So maybe they did a custom blend, you know, and it was like really throwing me off. So I figured if I take a picture and then I scan that picture into the computer and I extract the color information, maybe the computer can help me get close, you know. So it's not going to be like a dead ringer, but I'll be close to the bullseye, way closer than if I'm going, you know, down this like random approach to it. And so that was really successful. And so, you know, I tried again using Susan Rex's book, because she has all of these like little color chips that have, again, that, you know, 10%, you know, of this and 20% of that. And that's good, but, you know, you can only print so many colors. And, you know, there's like an unlimited palette. And so the idea that if a printer could do it, I could do it, and it's giving me the same information that it's giving the printer, you know, like blew my mind. And then, you know, I shared it with a couple of people, just the idea that I had, and I didn't know if it was going to actually work or not, but just this idea. And they're like, wow, like try it. So that's what those gloves were. Those sunset gloves was my first time really trying to see if I could do it. And when I was successful, and that was with the greener shades, dyes, and I was blown away that I was able to get like that close of a result. And it's not perfect.
I haven't used those.
So yeah, it's not a perfect method. I mean, it's a little bit off. So you do need to have a sense of color theory that if it has a blue cast or a red cast or warm or cool and all that, you can modify it. But I think that if you try it, you'll be really surprised at how close you can get for a first time attempting at that color without having to buy that color at the store. That you can really just use primaries, whether it's painters or printers. Primaries and get close to the color you want.
And
so for the future,
learning a ton along the way.
Yeah. And so for the future, really, I would like to develop a calibration test for one line of dyes and to see if I can get close to a color and what the concentrations of each depth of shade has to be in order to pinpoint that color. And then once I've developed that, is that applicable to other colors? So if I'm able to get a green, that's mixing mostly blue and yellow. So I want to see, can I also get an orange and a purple? Because those are like using the different primaries, right? So I want to see like how powerful the yellow has to be in comparison to the blue and the red and the black. And then once I have that, I'd like to kind of make it more of a formal book, almost like how the new Spin on Color book is, and teach people how they can calibrate for whatever line of dyes they want. And how they can get even closer to the colors that they're envisioning. So that would kind of be like book number 2 potentially.
I think that would be amazing.
I think it would be amazing too. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but that's the plan.
I mean, it's so great, and it gives people like, here, this is how you can get what you want, instead of just like throwing out, use this, use that. But there are so many shades that one wants to get.
Exactly.
And
and again, it comes back to that cookie. If you tell someone what sugar does, when they add it to a recipe, now they can decide how sweet they want something. Whereas if you tell them, oh, add a teaspoon, you're not really giving them the tools to make their own cookie. You're just telling them how to copy you. And so part of the thing that I love is teaching people how to have artistic freedom, and that I'm giving them a jumping off point to be creative from. And to me, that's just like super exciting. Is that you don't have to do my method, or you don't have to copy my pattern. You can go forth and do your own thing, and be empowered by that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Just one of the things that I'm doing with this blog is I just realized I was like, I actually really love sharing information about this business with dyers, with new dyers, and there actually isn't really anything like that out there. I was reading it and I loved it. I loved reading the part you said about Instagram and asking people a question to gain more engagement, and that was awesome. And I love the fact that it's geared towards fiber dyers, as opposed to just general business people, because I do think that the niche of the fiber world is so specific, and I was trying to explain to my grandmother, because she was like, I didn't know there were so many people that would even know what you do. And so there's really not a lot of people, but the people there are, there's probably 3 types. And I said, you have one that's probably a younger person that is more of an artist, that is exploring the medium of fibers as a way of communicating and expressing themselves. So they're seeing it more as like an art tool. And then you have the people that are like the shepherds and the fiber wool producers, and they're learning about how to
use the material that their animals are making to kind of like sell it to people. So they themselves then have to know how to spin and do that. And then you have the people that are older that maybe were making clothing for their families, or that it was a hobby from a long time ago that now that they're retired, they're getting back into. You know, I would say that those would be like the three, I don't know, main types. I don't know. Do you think I'm missing anything in that generalization?
No, I think that's a pretty good summary.
But I think the latter two though are not necessarily like technically savvy as much as the younger artists are, and so I feel like there's a population of spinners and fiber artists that get like missed out on, you know, because they're not technology as much, and so it's like, how do you reach those people? Like, I know, you know, you can go on Ravelry and Instagram, but how do you reach those people? Is it through, you know, guild newsletters, or, you know, how do you reach them? And that's kind of a curious question that I have for people.
Well, what's
interesting
too is that, like, so when I wrote, I was like, all right, here are the main yarns that I use. This is what this is what I call them. This is what they're called. This is where you can get them. I don't think anyone's actually done that before, because the reaction was incredible.
Like, is it like a inside secret type of thing, or
everyone is just so secretive? And you know, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, thank you!" Thank you so much. Like, that's like, it's just, I realized it's just never been done before. But what I realized is that people don't buy your yarn like just for the yarn, right? They buy it for your dye job, for your color sense, and that's individual, right? Like, that's that can't be duplicated. And
you know, I mean, but there definitely are people that do. There are people that will, you know, try to steal, you know, color palettes and, you know, formulas and things like that. And, you know, it's difficult when you're making a material for people to use, because, again, kind of coming back to that chocolate chip cookie, you know, a chef may not want to reveal their secrets. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, there are those, you know, trademark things like, you know, if you could ever get your hands on the cinnamon bun recipe,
right?
You know, would you buy it? And so I think part of it is knowing that an artist touched it. And I think that's going back to, you know, actually recognizing dyers as artists. I think there are people that, like, for example, like someone like Olek, you know, she's recognized as a crochet artist, you know, or an artist that uses crochet as a medium. But I don't necessarily know, and maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I don't necessarily know many people that would say that the dyer themselves, like the act of dyeing, is like the art, you know. And I know that there are people that use it as a medium when they're making their art. So, like, I know, it was just in one of the Fiber Arts magazines, like, there was a gentleman that was using indigo, and he was like dyeing these like panels of fabric and displaying it. But it wasn't like he was selling it for other people to use.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think there's like this blurred line between, well, you're making something for me to consume, and so like, do I respect you as an artist and your integrity, or like that you're creating something unique and to not steal it from you? And I think that's why maybe people are so secretive about it. But I think at the end of the day, like you said, you know, what you're putting your hands on is unique to you. And I know that there are a ton of people that can make novelty yarn, but I know that if Lexi chooses to sell her yarn, like, she's going to be the person that I go to, because I want plucky fluff yarn, you know, and I want it because it went through her hands. And, you know, I could try to make my grandmother's chocolate chip cookie recipe as, you know, you know, as much as possible, but it's never going to taste as good as when she makes it, you know. So it's just, there are some people that want to get that knockoff, that rip off, and get it, the best way possible, the easiest way possible. But I think at the end of the day, if someone has their hand in something that's unique to them, and that's like the whole Stephen West thing and, the hedgehog fiber.
Well, I mean, I get, not wanting to share this is how you do it. But when it comes to, like, suppliers, like, where do you get yarn? Like, it's, like in the article, it's 2017. You can get on the internet and find out anything. So
yeah.
And there are only a few. There's there's a handful of suppliers that a lot of the dyers are using. So like we're all using the same yarn. But
and so how do you stand out? So then is it your color palette? Is it your presentation? I mean, I know like when you go to different places, the way that they present the fiber, it's either like braided or coiled or whatever, So if you can come up with an interesting presentation, sometimes it's just something as simple like, did you ever see Grafton Fibers? They're from Vermont. Yeah. So they did these beautiful bats. And I wouldn't say that the fiber they used was like much different than any other bat makers, but the way that they blended the colors was so beautiful, and the way they presented it in their booth, like Loop, when she presents her bullseye, whatever, so it's not necessarily like it's something that different, than that any other person with a drum carder could do, but it's their creativity and how they present it, their packaging and their marketing, and I think that's what is that gap, is that people are trying to copy the carding and they're trying to copy everything else. But then if you try to copy the presentation, then you're a knockoff, So you really do have to like bring something of yourself to the table, and having your blog to like even just share, where to get the fiber allows people, the yarn allows people to say, okay, great, now I have the resource to start with. Now I can have my own creativity. But it is, I think, a very like secretive kind of, like magicians, you don't want to give your secrets.
And I mean, I think like I'm definitely going to do a post on like originality, right? Because like that is a problem. A lot of people they're trying to copy other dyers, and it's like play with what you like. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man. I tried sprinkle dyeing, and that did not go over well. And I'm like trying to do sprinkle dyeing, and I said to my son, because he's 5, and I was like, hey, you want to play with Kool-Aid with me? And he just takes the whole packet and like dumps it on, and I'm like, oh man, okay, this is not going how I envisioned it, But I'm too much of a control freak to do that again. But definitely, when you try to do the sprinkle dyeing, and then you're like, okay, there's like a real methodology to this, and I think that's also what separates the quote unquote professional, from the amateur. Is that, when you were saying how the randomness of what you do, it's a certain kind of randomness. And if you try to do a forced randomness, then it's not going to yield the same results. So just kind of thinking about whoever you are as an indie dyer, what's your thing? Maybe you just do solids really well. It doesn't have to be speckled, and it's interesting. There were like scientists that said, when guys have beards, like those that don't have beards become more attractive. And when the majority of the population then doesn't have beards, then the ones that do becomes like more attractive. Like there's like an oversaturation, right? So I think now, like if the yarns are like so speckled, and for people like me that are like, okay, I'm still not comfortable with using speckled yarn.
Right.
Maybe being that person that has those solid colored yarns, your yarns might stand out. So just stick with it. Make it be the best solid yarn you can, the solid colored yarn you can. And
also, I mean, and it's know what you're working with. Know your tools, like learn how they work, because that's so much a part of it. Like, any in art,
I
right?
think that's that's very difficult in the fiber art industry, because I think you don't have it offered as a class and having it be something that is taken seriously. And so one of the things that I've done as an art teacher, again, like I teach in the inner city in Rochester, and we have, you know, like bare bones, like we have like studio in art, we have a couple of drawing and painting, like one ceramics class, but I was really like championing and pushing for a studio in fibers, and so the district approved it, and I was able to teach it 2 years in a row. And so, again, going back to the Weaving and Fiber Art Center and the Weavers Guild, I reached out to the members and said, look, they finally approved the studio in fibers, and, you know, I don't have any resources. I don't have any budget here. Can you guys help me out? And the acrylic yarn, garbage, you know, black garbage bags of acrylic yarn were just pouring in, and it was awesome. And, you know, seriously, and I reached out to the National Needlework Association, and as a teacher, they give you knitting needles, crochet hooks. They give you
awesome.
spindles. And what's also awesome is that I teach in CTE-based schools, like a career and technical education school. And so there's a lot of shop classes. So I reached out to the carpentry shop class, and they made me wooden drop spindles. And like next year, they might even make me 3D printed. Yeah, they're going to make me 3D printed drop spindles. And
that's awesome.
And then and then the carpentry shop students, especially like when they're working with nails, they made me vests, you know, the pin looms. So I have those. And basically the studio in fibers, I started off by teaching the students, you know, what's the difference between wool, you know, cellulose and synthetic and protein fibers. And I bring in a silkworm cocoon that's not open, and then I cut it open in front of them, and, you know, we see who's going to get the bugs at them and stuff, and, you know, shaking it and like, what's inside? You know, is it a peanut? No. And so just trying to get them excited about it. And, you know, then they'll tell me stories and say, oh, my grandma crochets, or, oh, you know, my aunt does this. And it's interesting because, you know, they'll take it and they'll be like walking to the cafeteria and crocheting during lunch, and, you know, people be like, oh yeah, I saw someone making this and I want to learn how to do that. And, you know, there's such a love for the tactile, you know, medium of fibers, but it's not taught as an art form. And so there's like a real disconnect of, if I want to do this well, where do I go to learn? And that just goes back to that whole spinning certificate, you know, is that I really wanted to learn from, you know, a skilled person. And so unless you can do like an apprenticeship or take workshops at, you know, conferences and things like that, there's really like no place to go as like a college that says like, okay, this is going to be like, you know, dyeing course and knitting, you know, unless like you're going for like a bachelor's in fine arts, and it's so few and far between. You know, I know you're in a really lucky area of the country where they have it, but it's just not offered really in the, you know, K through 12 education spectrum, unless it's, you know, maybe they'll do like woven, you know, pictures or pot holders, or they'll do things like that. But, you know, growing up, I was never, you know, exposed to like crocheting and knitting in any of my art classes. And so that's kind of been that's like been my real mission. And, you know, what's amazing is that the boys take to it so much faster sometimes than the girls. And it's funny, like, which gender is drawn to it, you know, because I'm always afraid that they're going to be like, oh, that's for girls, I'm not going to do it, you know, but then I'm like, yeah, but there's like a tool aspect, so we're going to be using tools. And I don't know, I try to kind of break that gender barrier and let them know that, you know, it's okay, like, you can, you know, do things with fabric and sewing, and like you can know how to fix a button, you know, I'll teach you all this stuff. And it's just an awesome experience. Like I had a student that was complaining the whole year, and you know, and that's just like his nature, right? But he was complaining the whole year about everything. And then at the end of the day, he made a fabric collage portrait of this rapper Gucci Mane, and he like embroidered it onto his book bag, and he was walking around with like this, you know, fabric portrait collage on the back of his book bag. And
that is awesome. Okay.
Yeah, you know, that, and I think that's also on Instagram too, if people want to check it out. But it's one of those things where, you know, if if you can reach people at an earlier age and teach them that yes, the fiber arts are an art form. You know, it's not just like a craft thing that, you know, you can do as a hobby, but it can go beyond that. I think it would, I don't know, just make people more open-minded to it. Maybe have the opportunity to like learn more about it and actually, you know, be proficient at it and not just be like, okay, I'm in my basement, I got the, you know, the Kool-Aid, what's next?
Right.
Because I mean, that's why we had to start with Kool-Aid, you know, because no one was there to like show us, you know, how to do it. I mean, YouTube was minimal at best, you know. You don't want to have YouTube while you're trying to die because that just doesn't work out well.
I was really, when you talked about the indigo, I was really lucky when I was in college. I majored in printmaking, but I took a couple of textile classes, and I kind of discovered the textile department too late because otherwise I would have done a dual major. But one of the national treasures of Japan came to do indigo.
Okay.
And
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. And I don't think I've ever like seen a blue like that anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, I think in America too, in our culture, you know, we have such a buy it, disposable kind of mentality, you know, so the idea of making your own clothing anymore, I mean, I think it's having a resurgence, but the idea of, you know, making things from scratch, and when you tell someone how long it takes to do it, you know, they kind of look at you like, are you crazy, you know?
Right.
Or like, does it save money? It's like, when does doing anything for 100 hours ever save you money? Like, no.
Totally.
I'm either doing this because I can't afford, you know, anything else, or like I just decided that I'm going to spend my money on it and nothing else, right? But yeah, I mean, I have like, you know, oh man, I can't even tell you how much money I spent on the master spinner certificate projects, because I use like a 14.5 micron blended with merino blended with silk. And like I made a dye mistake and I had to buy like a whole nother pound, and I was just crying. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know? So I have a whole bunch of it that I'm going to be just stashing soon. So look out for that. But it's heartbreaking, you know, how much money you can spend on failed projects, and I think having a solid place to go where people can learn, and I think that's what's neat about those craft schools. And I was going to look into potentially teaching there, is that, you know, maybe those are the places that need to have like younger, you know, camps and things like that for kids to learn about it. Because I don't know, any child that like watches someone with a drop spindle or a spinning wheel, any kind of demonstration, they're just fascinated by it. You know, they want to touch it, they want to interact with it. It's just cool, you know. So
I mean, I think that's how I like I remember I want to say it was like at a Swedish fair or something, but someone was spinning with the drop spindle, and like I was just so captivated, and like my parents like bought me some wool and bought me a spindle, and I did a little bit, and then I don't know, I did something else, but
but now imagine like, okay, so you see the demonstration, and then they say, okay, you know, if you want to learn more, come to such and such place, you know, and sign up for lessons or whatever, you know, and then it becomes an accessible thing. But when it's like, well, I don't know how to do it, I don't know who knows how to do it, oh well, here, you know, just figure it out for yourself, then it's kind of like, well, you know, that's like trying to tell someone to build a car by themselves. It doesn't quite work that way. You know, like if someone said to me, make the refrigerator work, I'm like, okay, forget it. We're just foraging. We're not eating food that has to do with the refrigerator because I don't know how to fix it. You know, it's just the culture that we live in, right? So, I can make clothes for us, but I can't fix the refrigerator or figure how to fix the washing machine or anything like that. So we're just gonna wear dirty clothes and eat grass, but I'll keep you warm.
Right, totally.
That's my survivalist skill if anyone needs to get trapped somewhere.
Yeah.
I can make cute cactuses too. So. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Anything else? Not so much. Well, Thank you so much. It was really great to kind of finally meet you.
Yes. Same here, and hopefully one day soon I can make it out to the West Coast and meet you in person. Hopefully, in a workshop or a touring format. But it would be a pleasure.
Yeah, and if you ever want to write any guest posts, or if you have any for the blog, I know you don't have a lot of time, but if you ever get a chance.
Sure. Yeah. Just if there's a topic you'd like me to, give my 2 cents on, I'd be happy to.
Yeah. I mean, I think just the way you're talking about the accessibility and teaching is really it's neat. But yeah, I mean, I'll try and think of a couple more specific things, but I think but if there's something you think that but yeah, that's one thing that
I don't really know a lot of formally trained educators or teachers in the fiber industry that are also workshop teachers. I think a lot of the people that are teaching are really good artists or artisans, and they have different backgrounds. But I think maybe the thing that sets me apart is that I actually have that trained background. And so when people come and they take a workshop, I really try to take in the psychology of teaching and just all of, I've been teaching for 12 years now. So I just try to take in all of those components and make it a different experience. And again, I think that's what is unique to me. And that's something that I try to focus on. So for anyone,
that's a perfect topic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because like I said, if you find the thing that you're good at or the thing that you enjoy the most, to stick with it, and that will be the thing I think that will make you successful.
Yeah, I mean, you're teaching what makes you special. I mean that's a great post right there, and yeah. I mean, you have so much love for teaching. And
definitely.
And that is really awesome. And how do you teach someone? You know what I mean? There are these different ways, and it's in Pilates, some cues aren't going to work for someone else. So you figure out, okay, what can they imagine? What will make sense to them?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then even in the teaching world, they have terms like scaffolding, maybe someone just broke a part of their body and they're not physically able to do a move, 100%. So where can you find their starting point, so that they can still feel successful, even though they're not doing what everyone else is doing? Or, if somebody is really super advanced, how can you push them further so that they don't feel like they're being held back? So there's lots of group dynamic things that are also different when you're teaching to a class that you have to take into consideration that's different than a one-on-one lesson.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff is great because, I've taught maybe 1 or 2 workshops, but it's not something that I've really done in the past but yeah, I just love your passion and how uniquely you're approaching it.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's something that's kind of I don't know, a natural extension of myself. And I think when you're talking too about the mistakes that people make, I think if you try to force yourself into the if you're a round peg trying to force yourself into a square hole, it's not going to be as easy. So again, to just try to think about, what are your strengths, where your talents are, and how can you maximize those, the best to work for you.
Right. Exactly. And not try to do it all.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I mean, I know if I really wanted to, and I've had inclinations to, I'm I see all these people out there that have their dyed yarns. Like, I'm good with color. I know how to dye. I have a whole bunch of dyes in my basement that are sitting in jars. I don't know what to do with. Maybe I'll just buy like $200 worth of yarn. I'll dye it. I'll throw it up on Etsy. If it sells, great, But then, the wheels in my head were going, and I'm like, wait, now I'm going down the road of the bats, and I'm doing it just to get rid of stuff that I don't want. So, and it kind of goes back to that whole KonMari thing too. But, the idea of really like, you want to spend your time and your energy in the things that you love. And if it's becoming work, then it's not worth it. And, I probably would teach even if I didn't get paid for it. That's just what I'm drawn to, and so
that's
it's
how
great.
That's how I feel actually about Pilates. Like, that's just I'll be showing people stuff that they could do. Like if they say they have some injury or something's bugging them, I'm like, ooh, tell me more. Oh, well, you can do this and this and this. Like I can't help it. I want to.
Exactly. So and that's the vein of life, you have to tap into. Like I had a professor one time that said, sometimes you find something that works, and so it's like a vein of fudge in the ice cream. You just got to follow it down to the bottom, And so it's like, if that's the thing that works for you, then you got to go with it. And so maybe the dyeing was what worked for you before, but if Pilates is what's working for you now, then that's your vein of fudge you got to follow. So it's and it's not like let people tell you like no too. Like I know with the fiber thing, I mean I've had so many people tell me like, Alana, why are you doing this? This is what old people do, and it's like, well, how am I supposed to do this when I'm old? I'm gonna have arthritis then. Like I have to do it now. Like I don't know what you're talking about, So it's, or like my eyes are going to be bad. I'm not going to be able to tell the difference between green and blue. Everything is going to be like blurry, like what are you talking about? I have to do it now. So there's a real, desire to live in the moment and appreciate like the fibery things that are going on now. I don't want to post it. It's too much fun for me. But if someone said that I had to go back to mounting things on cardstock and doing spinning for like precision or whatever, I would say no way. Like I'm done. And there are a lot of people that after they go through the spinning course, they just stop spinning because it literally like zaps the joy and the fun out of it. So, you have to like say to yourself, okay, like where is the fun in all of this, and where am I getting the enjoyment from, and just try to like stay on that course.
Yeah, and I think like for me, I've evolved to the point where like what I'm getting passionate about, like on the Pinterest Studios side, is like giving help, right? Like providing people with information that will help them.
And that's awesome. And like I haven't seen anybody do that before, and that's the perfect thing to go into. And there's a niche for that, so definitely.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because it's like, I still like want my yarn to sell. Well, right now, just because I have lots of rehab bills, so kind of having to double down on Pinterest Studios. But like that actually like doesn't like I don't even think about that with the blog. Like it's not about me, It's I just really love giving information, and it's like the fiber side of how I feel in Pilates, where like I just love making people's bodies feel better.
And that's awesome, and hopefully your body will help you with that too, and from a medical.
Oh, it really has.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because medically, like I was having back spasms for a while, and I thought that I don't know, that there was like all sorts of medical reasons why it was happening, and I just read this book. I don't know if you're familiar with this gentleman. His name is Dr. Sarno, and the book is called like Mind-Body Connection. And what's interesting about that though is that we all internalize stress differently. and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it goes to different parts of our body and it affects us differently.
Yeah.
And like mine just hit me in the back. And so when I realized that, it was hurting me the most when I was doing homework assignments,
Mm-hmm.
and when I had to teach the college course. And you know, I realized that those were hoops that I had to jump through to get to the point of being aware of making me happy. But sometimes we put these like stressors on our body and we're not even aware of how our body is responding to them. And so, you know, the idea of, you know, figuring out like, okay, this is not the path that I should be going down because it's not making me happy, even though I thought it might make me happy, and being able to like accept that, you know, and it's just, it might be hard if that's what you were thinking was going to make you happy, or that, you know, but definitely being on the other side now, like my back hasn't hurt me since my homework assignments are done. So it's kind of amazing. And really, I mean, it's amazing how when, you know, you pursue the things you love, like the blog, and you do the things you love, that even if there are real like medical issues going on, how sometimes your mind can almost like help you heal when you're in a better mental space.
Yeah, I mean, what I've been doing, I've like basically my body completely fell apart, and I'm having to retrain it. It's kind of a crazy story. No one's actually ever seen this before. What happened to my body?
Wow.
Yeah, and like it like seems neurological, but I went to the neurologist actually on Tuesday, and like I'm fine. And so, you know,
that's amazing.
Like, because I'm lucky to be in this industry, I was able to find a good team, people who understood what I was saying, who were listening to me. But it's starting to help my teaching in an incredible way, right? Because I'm like putting my body back together, like I'm able to make connections now, right? Like I know how bone feels when it goes back into alignment and what the muscles do when that happens. And so I'm starting to be able to see like I already had a really good eye. Like I already saw a lot, but now I'm just seeing so much more.
And I wouldn't necessarily say that what you experienced is a mistake necessarily, but like sometimes when you go through those challenges, you know, your outlook on it is going to really be the thing that not only gets you through it, but can shape how it just informs the rest of your life, you know. So you can have the attitude of like, oh, like woe is me or whatever, or you can be like, okay, like let me like really like examine this and figure this out. And now like when you have people come to you and they'll, you know, have like problems whatever with their body, you know, you'll just be that much more in tune, you know, and drawing from those experiences to help you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and it's definitely the silver lining. You know, I'm like, okay, this is just very expensive continuing education.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. No, any challenge is like, you know, very difficult when you're in it, but you know, just I think one's attitude, you know, like you can go through the most difficult thing in your life and realize that like you survived it, and you know you'll be happy again, and you know you can grow from it. And that's sometimes the challenge of life and all the things we do, whether it's you know spending 50 hours making cotton yarn socks you're never gonna wear, or having your body tell you, you know, you have to take a minute to reflect. So.
Well, what I'm learning, like people pay lots of money to try to learn in workshops. You know what I mean? And and like I'm physically experiencing it. So it's, you know, I'm just, as frustrating as it's been, I'm like I think I'm going to be a really good rehab person, like at the end of all this. Rehab's already my thing, but
yeah, and that might be a really great path, you know, for you. So your vein of fudge is appearing.
Yeah. Well, I've already headed down that path. Like the studio that I work at is kind of rehab based, and that's
okay. There you go.
Strength.
Yeah, and see, that's the
yeah.
thing, right? So somehow, you know, it gets really cloudy and you can't really see the stars, but then sometimes they have a way of aligning and then things make sense and it's like, oh, okay. You know,
yeah.
But yeah, sometimes you have to go through really, really difficult hurdles and tough times for, you know, to be able to come out of it. And some people aren't fortunate enough to do that, but
yeah.
I do wish you a speedy recovery and I hope that you can get back to your passion.
Yeah, it's not going to be speedy, but you know,
well,
I'm learning a lot.
At least you found the team. At least you found the team that has helped you. You know, and you're not stuck in the place of, you know, the why or what.
Exactly. No, I'm so grateful for that because, you know, it's like I know what I need, you know, to recover, and it's, you know, it's something that like the normal doctors like have no clue about. Where I'm like, no, I know I need this and this and this.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult when there's that disconnect between the doctors and you have that instinct of what your body needs.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, anyways, it's probably really late for you, and
yeah, I just looked at my phone and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be tired tomorrow, but that's okay. That's okay. It was a beautiful conversation, and I'm glad we had it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Like it was awesome just to hear about all that, and
well, thank you for letting me share it. And like I said, if I can be of any more assistance, you know, please let me know. And if I ever find myself in your neck of the woods, I'll be sure to keep you posted.